even after the great celebration of the solemnity of the resurrection of our Lord, let us continue that practice of taking each day and recalling on this day, at this moment, where were Jesus' disciples? What did they see? What did they hear? What were they thinking and feeling, and where did they go as a result? Here we are a week after the resurrection of our Lord, and we can see clear signs that on one hand, the disciples are beginning to recover from the trauma of Good Friday. And they are beginning to emerge from some very understandable ignorance of Easter Sunday itself. It's not surprising that when our Lord was arrested, when he was led away for crucifixion, that all but a very few ran and hid in fear for their lives. And we don't really know that much exactly what happens when Jesus is transformed in glory, but we can't be that surprised to realize that after his resurrection, when Jesus appeared to those, even those closest to him, did not even recognize him for who he was. And here we are a week later, and we still see the signs that the disciples are still coming to grips with what has happened, what is happening right now, and what is going to happen next. If we're honest with ourselves, we can all very much understand why Thomas would say, "Nope. If I don't see the holes in his hands and the wound in his side, I don't buy it." And Jesus, being the good teacher that he is, when he sees Thomas, he says, "All right, go right ahead." And upon placing his fingers into the holes in Jesus' hands and placing his hand into the wound in Jesus' side, Thomas can only come to one conclusion: my Lord and my God. In 2015, perhaps discerning a need within the worldwide church, Pope Francis declared an extraordinary year of mercy. And I can remember when that year began, I honestly was harboring some doubts, some thoughts. Well, why would we dedicate a whole year to mercy? And it was only in the course of that year that I began to realize that I was not alone in a very narrow understanding of what God's mercy is and what God's mercy accomplishes in our lives. And again, just like the disciples at Good Friday and the disciples on that first Easter Sunday, we come by the narrowness of our understanding very honestly. When we think about the practice, the daily practice of Catholic faith, when is the time when we explicitly invoke God's mercy? We say it every day. Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. And in what context do we invoke God's mercy? Always for the forgiveness of sins. And if we're not careful, we very quickly come to the false conclusion, well, that's what God's mercy is. God's mercy is the forgiveness of sins. And so the only time that I ever really invoke God's mercy is when I am seeking the forgiveness of my sins. And in the course of that year, that extraordinary year of mercy, the Holy Father led us to understand that God's mercy is actually much more than that, and something that would have been very timely in the lives of the disciples on that first Easter Sunday, or even, I don't know, about a week after that first Easter Sunday. The Holy Father explained that certainly God's mercy does contain the forgiveness of sins, and we know that. But he said, do not forget that God's mercy goes much further in our lives. One fundamental way in which God's mercy goes further in our lives is in the protection against the memory of past hurts. And those past hurts can take two forms. Either we are still guilty over a past failure, over a past sin, over a past way in which we have harmed another person. And our recollection of that past failure, that past sin, that past injustice or lack of charity towards another person still haunts us to this day. The other basic form of a memory of past hurt are ways in which we were the ones who were hurt in the past. That we were the ones who were lied to. We were the ones who were betrayed. We were the ones who suffered from injustice. And to this day, we are still haunted by resentment. And when we find ourselves haunted by that memory of past hurt, Satan goes nuts. Because he knows that there is nothing in our lives that is more effective in undermining our confidence in God than to keep dragging those memories of past hurts forward. To keep us nursing that guilt, or keep us nursing that resentment. And the reason why Satan loves it so much is because the more we become mired in guilt, the more we become mired in resentment, the more that our time and our energy and our attention and our passion for God begins to drain away. Nothing undermines our confidence in the will of God, in the love of God, the presence of God in our lives, than to keep us revisiting and ruminating over the hurts of the past. And so God says to us, when the memory of past hurts comes present in your mind, invoke my mercy. And say, Lord, in your great mercy, do not allow the memory of past hurts to be used as weapons against me, to undermine my confidence in you. Place me inside of your 5 wounds, Lord, and keep me safe. The third major action of God's grace, beyond the forgiveness of sins, beyond the protection against the memory of past hurts, is a reminder of the goodness that is still present. This is one of the things that the disciples were profoundly vulnerable to even a week after that first Easter Sunday. And it is certainly something that you and I, as baptized persons in 21st century America, are still profoundly vulnerable to. I catch myself all the time. I begin to see my whole day, my whole being, my whole action. All right, what question do we not know the answer to? What problem do we not know the solution to? What conflict is out there that I still don't know the resolution to? And that becomes our whole day, pursuing answers to questions, pursuing solutions to problems, pursuing resolutions to conflict, until our whole day and our whole being seems to be consumed by all of those things. And again, if we're not careful, we can suddenly lose sight of all the goodness that is still here present. One very simple illustration of this fact. Who here has a toothache? Raise your hand. Not one? How many of you are grateful that you don't have a toothache? Oh, well, now I am, Father, now that you reminded me. And that needs to be our posture. Yet, are there questions that don't have answers today? Yes. Are there problems that don't have solutions today? Yes. Are there conflicts that seem like they're never going to be settled? Yes. But Lord, in your great mercy, do not allow me to lose sight of the good that is still present here. That I hear your word proclaimed. And that I see you coming to me now. Without reserve. Body, blood, soul, divinity, whole and entire. Withholding absolutely nothing of yourself. And wherever I am, whatever the world has brought me, Lord, you come running out to me. And that part of me, Lord, that is still shrouded in ignorance, Lord, bring your truth. That part of me, Lord, that is still hurting from malice, Lord, bring your healing mercy. That part of me that is still prostrate in weakness, Lord, bring your strength and your perseverance. And that part of me, Lord, that is still obsessed by self-interest, Lord, bring the desire for holiness. Because, Lord, I'm not able to do these things on my own. But I know that if I ask you with a sincere heart, you will not fail to do these things. And when you do these things, Lord, I will be transformed. I will become more fully and more authentically who you created me to be, a way that I would never be able to accomplish on my own. And because of your faithfulness, Lord, my life will begin to shine, to become like a beacon, driving back the ignorance and the malice and the weakness and the self-absorption of the world. so that that person in my life who is still without knowledge of you, who is still without hope in you, and still does not know the freedom of the new life that you bestow, Lord, may come to know it because they see you at work in me.